If nobody has ever shown you what I'm about to show you, hit subscribe right now. Because what you are about to learn could be the difference between a dignified retirement and one you never planned for. Let's begin. Picture this. You're sitting across a desk from a financial advisor. Or maybe a bank manager. The office is clean. There are diplomas on the wall. The chair you're sitting in is comfortable. They look at you. They take in your gray hair, the lines on your hands, the quiet signs of a life lived honestly and worked hard. And they smile. It is a warm smile. A reassuring smile. They lean forward and say the exact words you have been waiting to hear your whole working life. You've done the hard part. You've saved. Now it's time to protect what you've built. At your age, we don't take risks anymore. Let's move your money somewhere completely safe. A savings account. Government bonds. Zero risk. You'll sleep like a baby. You feel it, that wave of relief washing over you. Finally, someone is telling you that it's okay to rest. You've earned it. You sign the papers. You shake hands. You walk out into the sunshine feeling lighter than you have in years. Your life savings are now locked inside a steel vault with a sign on the door that says, 0% risk. And here is the question I need you to sit with for the next 20 minutes. What if that was the most dangerous financial decision you ever made? Not the reckless decisions. Not the gambles. Not the risks you took when you were young and could afford to lose. This one. The one that felt responsible. The one that felt mature. The one the professional in the diploma office told you was exactly right for someone your age. What if the safe haven is not a fortress? What if it is a beautifully designed trap? One that mathematically guarantees you will run out of money before you run out of breath. That is what this video is about. Today, we are going to take the gold paint off the chain. We are going to redefine, completely redefine, what the word risk actually means. And we are going to look at the numbers honestly, without flinching, because you deserve the truth more than you deserve the comfort. If you want to make sure your retirement doesn't quietly turn to ash while you're sleeping peacefully, stay with me. My name is your guide. This is the Wealth Fortress. Let's wake up together. To understand why your safe investments may actually be destroying you, I need to take you out of the bank. Away from the desk. Away from the diplomas on the wall. Come with me to the middle of the ocean. Imagine you are out there right now. Dark water in every direction. The sky is turning gray. The wind is picking up. A massive financial storm is on the horizon. A recession, a burst of inflation, a banking crisis, whatever form it decides to take. You are treading water, and you have exactly two boats to choose from. The first is a speedboat. It is powerful. It cuts through the waves. When you climb in and the storm hits, the ride is genuinely frightening. The boat slams into the crests and drops hard into the troughs. Your stomach lurches. The spray hits your face. The financial news is playing on a screen somewhere and it is screaming that the boat is about to capsize. This violent up and down motion, this is what Wall Street calls volatility. It is uncomfortable. It is alarming. It is real. Now look at the second boat. It is a life raft. Heavy, flat, yellow. When you climb in, you immediately understand the appeal. It barely moves. The waves roll under it and the raft simply absorbs them. There is no drop, no lurch, no spray. You can lie on your back, stare at the sky, and feel nothing but stillness. Zero turbulence. Zero stress. The banker who sold it to you is standing on the shore waving, very pleased with your decision. Of course you choose the life raft. You are tired. You have earned the peace. The speedboat is for people who are still in the game, still building, still able to absorb a hit. You are past that. You want calm water. And that reasoning, that completely understandable, emotionally rational reasoning, is exactly what they are counting on. Because here is the thing the banker on the shore did not mention. There is a hole in the bottom of the life raft. It is small. You cannot see it. Day to day, you would never know it's there. But it is leaking. Very slowly. Steadily. Month by month, the raft sits a little lower in the water. Year by year, it sinks a little further. And by the time you notice, really notice, not just a vague feeling of unease but a hard number staring at you from a bank statement, the water may already be at your chin. That hole has a name. It is called inflation. And for the rest of this video, we are going to look at it directly. Let's put real numbers on the hole in the raft. Let's do the math that the bank statement is designed to hide from you. You put your retirement savings in the bank. Or you buy government bonds. They offer you a yield, a guaranteed return. Let's say 4% per year. That is a reasonable number. Not exciting but steady. Every month, you look at your account and the number has gone up. A few $100, maybe 1,000, depending on the balance. The line is moving in the right direction. You feel smart. You feel responsible. You feel safe. Now I need you to remember something we covered in the early videos of this series. The government, your government, and nearly every government on the planet, is printing money. Not in small amounts. In trillions. They print it to pay their debts, to fund their programs, to keep the system running. And every new dollar they print makes every existing dollar you hold slightly less powerful. This is inflation. It is not an accident. It is the mechanism. Right now, in the real world your money actually lives in, not the clean world of the bank statement, the cost of living is rising. Groceries, electricity, medical care, the prescription you've been taking for 10 years, housing, all of it climbing. Let's be conservative and say 7% a year. In rough years, it's been 10 or 12. Here is the arithmetic. Write it down if you need to. The bank gives you 4%. The world takes away 7%. The difference, the gap between what you gain on paper and what you lose in real purchasing power, is 3% negative every single year. That does not sound catastrophic. 3%. But stay with me. If your retirement savings are $300,000, 3% is $9,000 of purchasing power evaporating every year. Not in a crash. Not in a market collapse. In a perfectly calm, perfectly normal year where your bank statement shows a gain and you feel completely fine. Over 10 years, quietly, that is $90,000 of real wealth gone. Not from your balance. The number on the screen will still look okay. But from your ability to actually pay for your life. To cover the medical bill. To help your child. To not have to make the phone call where you ask for help. I call this return-free risk. They gave you the illusion of a return, a number going up, while charging you the actual risk of becoming poorer every year. You thought you were avoiding risk. You were not. You were simply trading one kind of risk for another. You traded the turbulence of the speedboat for the slow, invisible, guaranteed sinking of the raft. The difference is that the speedboat's volatility feels dangerous and the raft's sinking feels safe. That feeling, that gap between what feels true and what is mathematically true, is the entire business model of the safe haven industry. This brings us to the most important thing I will say in this entire video. And I need you to hear it slowly, because it goes against everything you have been taught. The financial system has deliberately confused two words. Two words that sound similar, that feel similar, but that means something completely different. Those words are volatility and risk. They told you volatility is risk. They showed you a chart of the stock market dropping 30% in a crash and said, "See? That's dangerous. That's what happens when you're not careful." And they were not lying, exactly. The chart is real. The drop is real. But the conclusion, that volatility equals risk, is the sleight of hand. Here is what volatility actually is. If you own a fraction of the 500 most powerful companies in the world, and the market panics, and the price of your shares drops 20% on a bad Tuesday, ask yourself, what did you actually lose? Did the companies stop existing? Did they stop selling products? Did the engineers stop working? The supply chain stop moving? The profits stop flowing? The price changed. The number on a screen changed. But the underlying reality, the real businesses, the real assets, the real productive capacity you own a piece of, that did not disappear. If you simply do not sell, if you hold the position through the storm, the price recovers. It always has. 100 years of data says it always has. The volatility was real. The loss was not permanent. That is the crucial distinction. Now look at the raft. When inflation burns 3% of your purchasing power this year, does that money come back? When the price of your medication doubles over a decade but your fixed pension stays exactly the same, can you wait out that loss? When you can no longer afford the home you live in because property costs have outpaced your yield, is there a recovery coming? That purchasing power is gone. It is not sitting somewhere waiting for the storm to pass. It evaporated. Permanently. So which one is the real risk? The temporary, uncomfortable, emotionally difficult turbulence of owning real assets. Turbulence that history shows always resolves upward in the long run? Or the permanent, invisible, mathematically guaranteed erosion of everything you saved? An erosion so quiet and so slow that most people only notice it when it's too late? Real risk is not losing money on a bad Tuesday. Real risk is outliving your money. Real risk is being 85 years old and calculating how many months of savings you have left. For decades, the standard advice to retirees was to move toward bonds and away from stocks as they aged. At 70–80% of your portfolio should be in safe assets. This made sense in 1985, when interest rates were high, inflation was being brought under control, and the math actually worked. But you are not living in 1985. The interest rates that made bonds worthwhile do not exist the same way anymore. The inflation rate that makes your bond yield meaningful does not cooperate anymore. If you are following a 40-year-old map in today's economy, you are navigating a completely different ocean. And that map will lead you somewhere you do not want to go. I want you to think about something you probably don't say out loud. Not even to your spouse. Not over dinner. Not in the quiet before you fall asleep. But it's there. It has been there for a while. It is the fear of being 85 years old. Your body is slower. You need more medical care, not less. You need warmth and comfort and the ability to handle whatever life throws at you without having to ask anyone for anything. You open your banking app, or maybe your child helps you open it, and the number you see makes your stomach drop. Not because you spent it on luxury. Not because you gambled it away. Not because you were careless or wasteful or irresponsible. Because you did exactly what the professional in the office told you to do. You played it safe. You bought the bonds. You kept the cash. You avoided the turbulence. And the silent thief of inflation year after year just kept taking 3% here, 4% there, until the vault that was supposed to last your lifetime is down to its last reserves. And now the conversation you spent 40 years trying to avoid, the one where you have to ask your children for help, where you have to explain that the legacy you worked your whole life to build has been quietly consumed by a system that told you it was protecting it, that conversation is no longer hypothetical. I'm not telling you this to frighten you. I am telling you this because the frightening version of this story is real. It is happening to real people right now. And the only reason it happens is because nobody sat across from them and told them the truth before it was too late. The wise builders know this fear. They have sat with it. They understand that the greatest risk of their financial life is not a market crash. It is not a bad investment. It is outliving their wealth. And because they understand that, they make a different set of decisions. They do not hold cash as a long-term strategy. They do not rely on government bonds to carry their legacy. They understand that to protect their bloodline across decades, not just next year, not just until they're 70, but truly across the span of a long, full, modern life, they need to own things that cannot be printed by a central bank. Things that go up in value over time because human productivity, human ingenuity, and human need all go up over time. They accept the speedboat, not because they enjoy the turbulence, not because they have nerves of steel, but because they did the math, and they understand that the turbulence is temporary and the sinking is permanent. That is the distinction. That is the whole game. So what does the wise builder actually do? Do you take everything you have and throw it into the market tomorrow? Do you liquidate your bonds at 68 years old and go all in on the speedboat? That is not a strategy. That is panic wearing a different disguise. Wise builders do not panic. They construct systems. They build deliberately. And the blueprint is simpler than you have been led to believe. You need two things: a bucket of water and a forest. The bucket of water is your emergency fund. It is cash, real, liquid, immediately accessible cash, sitting in the bank. But it is a specific amount of cash. Enough to cover your living expenses for 6 to 12 months. No more. Yes, that cash is melting due to inflation. You know that now. But you keep it there deliberately as a tool, not as a strategy. You keep it so that when the heating breaks, or a medical bill arrives, or the car needs replacing, you can handle it immediately without touching your investments. Without selling at the worst moment. Without making fear-based decisions under pressure. That bucket is your shock absorber. It is not your future. It is your freedom to be patient. Now, everything above that bucket, every dollar that is not your 6 to 12 months of breathing room, that belongs in the forest. The forest is real assets. It is the basket we talked about in the last video. Your slice of the 500 most powerful companies in the world, growing quietly through every season. It might also include real estate. It might include gold or other hard assets that central banks cannot simply print more of. The specific composition is something you work out based on your timeline, your situation, your needs. But the principle is absolute. Money that you do not need in the next 12 months should not be sitting in cash. It should be planted. It should be working. It should be earning the returns that outpace the inflation that is otherwise eating it alive. And when the financial news screams that the market is crashing, and it will scream that, it always screams that, you will feel the pull. The deep, primal pull to sell, to retreat, to get back into the yellow raft where everything feels still. You must feel that pull and not act on it. You must look at your hands. Remember what they did to earn the money you're protecting. Remember the calluses, the early mornings, the late nights, the years. Remember that the storm has always passed. That the forest has survived every winter in recorded history and come out larger on the other side. Hold the steering wheel. Do not sell the forest because the wind is blowing. The turbulence is the price of admission. The peace that comes after it is what you built all of this for. Comfort is one of the most dangerous drugs ever invented. Not the dramatic kind of dangerous, not the kind that destroys you overnight. The slow kind. The kind that feels like rest when it is actually surrender. The kind that convinces you that stillness is safety, when stillness, in a moving world, is just a slower way of falling behind. The financial system offers you the comfort of guaranteed returns because it needs your real energy, your life savings, the distilled product of 40 years of labor, to fund its own operations. It wraps a chain around your ankle, paints it gold, gives it a pleasant name, and calls it a safe haven. And because the chain is gold-colored and the salesman is wearing a diploma on his wall and smiling like he is your friend, you believe him. You survived 40 years of hard work. You survived recessions that would have broken other people. You survived the chaos of raising a family and building something from nothing. You are not someone who needs to be protected from reality. You need to be given it. So here it is. Volatility is not your enemy. Volatility is the texture of survival. The slow, silent, guaranteed erosion of your purchasing power, that is your enemy. The number that looks fine on a statement while the world it can buy quietly shrinks, that is your enemy. Step off the raft. Accept the waves. Not recklessly, with a plan, with a bucket, with a forest, with patience. But step off. Because the raft is sinking. And it is sinking so slowly that most people only figure it out when they're already underwater. Before you close this video, I want you to think about one person. Not a crowd. Just one person. Someone you know who is sitting comfortably right now in a savings account or a bond fund, feeling safe, feeling responsible, feeling like they made the right choice. Someone who has not seen what you have just seen. Maybe it is a parent who did everything right and still has a quiet fear about what happens if they live longer than they planned. Maybe it is a friend who retired last year and moved everything to low risk because that's what the advisors said to do. Maybe it is a sibling who has more saved than anyone in your family ever did, and they are about to watch inflation quietly take a third of it over the next decade without ever understanding why. They are not foolish. They are not careless. They simply have not had this conversation. You can be the person who starts it. Send them this video. Right now, before you forget. One share. That is all it takes. You might be the reason they make a different decision before it becomes impossible to course correct. If you haven't subscribed yet, this is your moment. Hit the subscribe button. Turn on the notification bell. Because the next video in this series answers the question that comes directly after this one. Once you know you need to get off the raft, how do you actually do it without panicking, without making it worse, without timing the market wrong? We are going to build that bridge together. Go to the comments right now and write, "I choose the waves." That is how I know you are awake. That is how the algorithm knows that the wise builders are paying attention. And that is how this video finds the people who still have time to change course. My name is your guide. The walls hold. Stay strong. Stay patient. And let's keep building the wealth fortress together.